Proverbs 25:23. This is where we left off last week. And hopefully we're going to get through chapter 25 today. But verse 23, the north wind brings forth rain, and a backbiting tongue and angry countenance. All right, so this is basic cause and effect. We've seen this before in certain Proverbs. But understand, when the Bible speaks of things such as the north wind brings forth rain, it is talking about a regional thing. It's talking about regional weather. All right, that this is not universal around the world, because a north wind in places of the world does not bring rain at all. All right, such as, I'm going to go extremes. On the South Pole, every wind is north. All right, and it's not bringing rain. And on the North Pole, there is no north wind. Every wind there is from the south. And there may be other places in the world, such as in a desert, a north wind might not mean anything other than it's north wind. But we need to understand that this is from a regional aspect. But the idea is that as one thing occurs, for a certainty, there will be something else. That's what's being taught. And a backbiting tongue and angry countenance. This is what you're going to get. All right, now let's understand a backbiting tongue. What does it mean to be a backbiter? Well, there's a bit of betrayal in backbiting. There's a bit of betrayal in that. But this is talking about someone behind their back. If you've ever known anybody who is two-faced, once you figure that out, you realize I can't trust this person. This person is not a real friend. This person tells me one thing, is one way around me, and then is entirely against me when around other people. But here is this backbiting would be prating, saying things, saying spiteful things about you. And in Romans 1 and verse 30, in that list of actions by a very immoral people, one of those is that of backbiters. That's one of the things that they did. And friendship was rather shallow, is rather shallow with people like that. But Proverbs 29:22, an angry man stirs up strife, and a furious man abounds in transgressions. Here is this cause and effect. An angry man is going to stir up strife. A backbiter is going to bring about anger. And just to bring in, I just came across it, and it's from the writer Joseph Conrad. And he was talking about a specific people of they beguiled the time by backbiting, and it is a common thing that is, and as we look in the Proverbs, there are in these actions and reactions and characters, these are universal. We're going to find this everywhere on the earth. There is not going to be a people who have existed where some of this has not existed. Some of this, every bit of it is going to be found in humanity, every bit of it. And that's why you have these things as being universal, that these things are universally true. Even though we spoke about weather patterns are not universally true, but what occurs with people and people's behavior and then reaction to that behavior, those things are very, very common. Proverbs 26:20, where there is no wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no talebearer, strife ceases. So backbiting is going to bring about an angry countenance. Now, verse 24. Here is, and we've talked about these a little bit earlier, much earlier, what we refer to as the better Proverbs, because it says it is better. All right, it is better to dwell in a corner of a housetop than in a house shared with a contentious woman. So here is this idea of you're going to find more comfort, you're going to find more peace, you're going to find a better home in the corner of a rooftop. That's not exactly ideal. As a matter of fact, it's really bad. You have no shelter really there, but it's going to be a more peaceable place for there. Now, let's just talk about this house shared with a contentious woman. What does that mean? Understand that word contentious does not mean this is someone with a valid complaint. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean someone who is trying to do something that is legitimate, do something that is proper, and is sharing her concern. That's not contention. That's not contention at all. We can see things concerning a contentious man. In 21:19, we can see contentious and angry going together. Here is someone who causes problems, causes divisions, stirs strife, quarrelsome, makes the problems, makes the enemies, hates. In fact, someone who's contentious is just an enemy of peace, doesn't want peace at all. And this is someone who, in their house, they're just destroying their home, is what they're doing. They're destroying every relation or relationship they may have, whether it is husband-wife or whether it is mother-child, or you could just switch it to a contentious man. It doesn't matter. Contention is contention. And here's someone who's not a conversationalist. This is not someone who is even friendly. This is someone people just wouldn't want to be around this person, but someone's sharing the home with them, and it's better to find live on a housetop, in the corner of a housetop, than there. Now we go to verse 25. As cold water to a weary soul, so is good news from a far country. So here is this toiling and sweating in the sun, and able to now drink cold water, or even to jump in a cold stream. All right, cold water to a weary soul. Well, yeah, that's going to be a relief. It's going to be refreshing, and it's good. All right. Now, Proverbs 15:30, the light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and a good report makes the bones healthy. We come back to 25, so is good news from a far country. Now, what can we learn from this and from other scripture in the Bible? You can learn multiple things from certain statements. And obviously, we can take the one that is closest, is that good news. That's a relief. That's and making the comparison of someone who's just weary, hot, and now having cold water. All right, it's going to refresh them. But here is good news from a far country. Number one, news traveled in the ancient world. Now, a lot of people know that. All right, news did travel. It's not as though you had all these isolated groups and no one ever knew about anybody else. I don't know why you would come up with that idea, but that's not what happened. That's not. Now, granted, you could have isolated people off in the mountains, or isolated people way off on an island. Yeah, that did happen. But when we're talking about the Middle East, you're not isolated. In some place like Israel is the crossroads of 3 continents. All right, so you can have merchandise coming from any of 3 directions. It could be coming out of Asia, and it did. It could be coming out of Africa, and it did. Where do you think Solomon got ivory from? Well, he could have gotten it off in the east. That's true. Probably Africa. Where do you think they came back with apes and monkeys? All right, probably it's out of Africa. Now, granted, you can find those in Asia, and you can find those also in South America. But I don't think he went to South America. But they were gone for a while, and every 3 years they would come back. These ships that went out, and they would come back with all these exotic things. Or what I'm getting at is there was travel. Where there's travel, there's going to be news passed on. When you're talking about the Mediterranean world, that's a big highway right there. Just the Mediterranean itself is a big highway of where you have Jonah, who obviously is coming in years later after Solomon. Jonah could board on a ship heading to Spain. That's where that ship's going. You have boats that head to Egypt and all along North Africa. You have boats that are Spain, or what is now modern day France and Italy and Greece. All those where they traveled all over the place. All right, now here is the next thing, is having an interest in the events of a far country. That was present at that time as well. Here is something from a far country, and it's good news. And it is in fact relief that they did care about distant peoples. And even if they had never gone to that country or not, just that there's good news from a far country. Where do these particular products come from? You may not know. Where's your silk coming from? You may not know. Where's your tin coming from? You may not know. Or where's all this gold coming from? You may not know. It's off to some distant place you've never been. But news of prosperity and news of all these things coming in and coming in abundantly. I'm just thinking of this from a merchandise standpoint. And there's other standpoints we can look at. But that would be good news that there's good news that there's a good chocolate harvest. that's good news. There's good news that you have all these products that may be coming from other places, and where there's war and hostilities, those things are going to be hampered or entirely destroyed. Now, let's go to verse 26. A righteous man who falters before the wicked is like a murky spring and a polluted well. What does it mean a righteous man falters before the wicked? That means he's tempted by them and he falters. He becomes like them. It's exactly like what Jesus states in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. That's a harsh statement. That's a harsh statement. But if you have what had been a pure stream or a pure well, that it was a place where you could go, you could get good water there. Now all of a sudden, it's just muddy. All of a sudden, this is you might as well be going to the swamp. You might as well go to the pond. You know, it's no better than that. Well, what use is it now? It's no use at all. It's no use. And there are, as Jesus is stating in Matthew chapter 5:13, and also Solomon putting down here in 25:26, that the righteous have a purpose, that nothing else on the earth can take that purpose. Nothing else on earth can fulfill that. Nothing can. That there's only one salt of the earth. That's the righteous. What is salt? What do you use salt for? It's preservative. It's a stay of corruption. That's what it does. It stops corruption. and it has a purpose. But what if salt doesn't have that anymore? What if you have some sort of salt that's now useless? Where then what that would mean is the righteous aren't righteous anymore. What good is it now? It's nothing to be just trodden over by men. That's all. And now we just read it again. A righteous man who falters before the wicked. All right, now he's filthy, he's impure, and no one will regard this spring or this well as good anymore. It has been corrupted. You can't trust that anymore. Anything that he might do as an example, can he be trusted with it? Can his words be trusted? Can any counsel from him, any advice from him be trusted? Probably not. He's showing that he has no personal strength at all. He has no fortitude in him. His faith is a shallow faith. He's been weakened now. And what do? Well, and think of this as yourself. Keep yourself pure. Don't falter before the wicked. Don't be like a murky spring or polluted well. Don't do that. Keep yourself right before God. Now, verse 27. We read this maybe last week. I can't remember. Anyway, we were talking about how Proverbs uses honey in different ways. And here is one of those ways. It is not good to eat much honey. All right, so if we stop right there, we'd say, okay, well, okay, I get it. Don't eat much honey. But it continues on as the next part of this couplet. So to seek one's own glory is not glory. Now, having glory, having done something that is actually glorious, not seeking it, but actually something that's glorious, well, that could be as sweet as honey. All right, you have a satisfaction with what you've done, and think that understand that you have done a good thing. You have done the right thing, and that if there's glory associated with it, then okay, that's what it is. There is glory there, but to seek one's glory is not glory. One. Like we discussed last week, I think it was with Ananias and Sapphira. They were lying about or boasting about what they gave when they didn't give that. They didn't give that at all. And what they wanted was the notoriety or the glory with it, and to look like someone else, someone like Barnabas, but he's not the only one, but someone like Barnabas who did give everything. He sold the property and he gave it all. All right, he is the genuine article. They were not. And someone who's seeking their own glory may do so by deception. But someone who's seeking their own glory and trying to go about it to do something glorious for the sake of their own image, for the sake of their own seeking, well, that's the wrong motive anyway. What's the intent? The intent is to get notoriety. The intent is to be noticed, to have the limelight. Look at this person. All right, that's no good either. All right, and here is someone seeking the glory. Let's just go ahead and say it. That's probably a proud and a haughty man, is what that is. And someone who perhaps even envious of a Barnabas who did everything necessary and was not looking for glory. I think we could safely assume that Barnabas, that means son of encouragement, that the son of encouragement was not after his own glory. And when we read through the book of Acts, where we have Barnabas, there's nothing about him that seems like he's just after his own glory. It doesn't seem that at all. Now, we come to verse 28. Whoever, so we're chapter 25, 28, whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. Being able to have self-control. I remember it was years ago with my dad. I don't even know where we were, but we were by some street somewhere, and I'll call him a Yahoo, some Yahoo in a muscle car screeches by. It had nothing to do with us. Screeches by and just roars off. And of course leaves smoke and tracks behind. And my dad looks at that and he said, you know, that car is probably the only thing he can control in his life. That's probably the only thing he can control. And so he can't control himself. He can't control the things around him. That's probably the only thing. All right, so someone who cannot rule over their own spirit, what protection do they have? All right, going into a situation, could they even predict what it is that they might do? I don't know. maybe not. They can't control themselves. They may go to the left, they may go to the right. You don't know what's going to happen. And they would be an easy target for Satan, because if you can't control yourself, if you can't control your spirit, that means you are helpless. And it's described as a city broken down without walls. It's open to anything. That would mean there is no armor of God. This person has no armor against Satan, no armor against temptations, nothing. That they're just wide open, and anything that comes through may very well take them. And here is someone who's made themselves completely helpless. Now, we have a different situation. Proverbs 16:32, we have the opposite of this. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. So there's more glory, there's more power, there's more everything that's good by someone who can in fact control themselves. There is self-control here. They're slow to anger, so they don't have a quick fuse. That doesn't mean they never get angry, but they're slow to get there. They're not volatile. They don't explode. All right? Now, there are certain people that coming from, I don't know what their background may be. There are certain peoples that they seem to be much more volatile, much more emotional than other folks. Okay, and what brings that about? I don't know. I can't say that, but it's obvious that that is the case. What would bother this group greatly? And now they're in an uproar. The same thing with this group. While it may bother them greatly, they're not in an uproar. What's the difference? And you can see this in groups. You can also see, obviously, in individuals, that there isn't this just a lack of self-control. And but this is a serious problem. It's a serious problem of someone who can't control themselves, because that really is the only thing you can control. Aside from that sports car, there really is nothing else you can control. You can't control the future. You can't control the past. You can't control other people around you or what may happen to you. But you can control your reaction to it and your response to it. You can do that. Now, we come to chapter 26. And here we have a simile. As snow in summer and rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. All right, so we need to understand as snow in summer and rain in harvest. All right, so this is different. This is a different idea than Proverbs 25:13. That says, like the cold of snow in time of harvest. All right, that's not saying snow in time of harvest. That's saying like the cold of snow. In there, it was this relief. In 25:13, that is a thing of that's once again refreshing. All right, but here it's literally saying snow in summer, rain and harvest. What would that mean? One, it's out of place. Number two, it's destructive. All right? While I might love to have, and I confess I do, I love to have cool summers. I love it. We're not getting one, and we seldom get one. But it has an effect. While I might be more comfortable, there are certain things we don't get if things are too cool. There was, going back to the 1800s, it was called the year without summer. And it didn't, it applied up in the north around New England and that direction, where it was that one year they got no summer. It went from winter to less of a winter, and it never did warm up. And it all had to do with a volcano on the other side of the world, is what it had to do with. And it affected more than just New England. It affected a lot of things in the northern hemisphere. And guess what happened with that? There was no harvest. There was very, very, very limited vegetables that could be harvested. There was very little of anything that was green. You'd have to go with just cold weather plants, and you'd have to go with that and hope that's enough to get you through, because winter's coming again. It's not as though they traded places. Winter and summer traded places. Winter's coming again. All right, so you wouldn't want snow when it shouldn't be there. When you're relying snow in summer, that's not good. When you need when you're growing your food for next year, that's no good. And rain and harvest, why would that be bad? Well, when we're talking about, I think we talked about it last week, when you're harvesting something like wheat or barley or grains, that has to be done in dry weather. They don't need to be wet. They need to be gathered up when, what's the saying, cut hay while the sun shines, I think is what it is. Because if you're cutting the grass or the wheat or whatever, when you're cutting that and it's wet, it's going to mildew, it's going to rot. And that's not a minor thing. All right, you don't want rain in harvest. If there is rain during harvest, you've got to stop. You have to stop for the rain to be done, and then let everything dry out. Then you can start again. But now we come to this. As those things are out of place and destructive, so too is this. So honor is not fitting for a fool. A fool should not be honored or given a place of honor. Now, sometimes you don't know. sometimes you simply don't know. But you're going to set yourself up for disappointment. But here, going down to verse 8, because we have a very similar statement, but it's a more powerful statement in my mind, is one who binds a stone in a sling is he who gives honor to a fool. You are set up for failure. All right? You're set up for shame and for a great regret. Okay, let's talk about that. So we'll just do David and Goliath. That's the most famous story with a sling. There are other times that there are slingers and multiple slingers in the book of Judges. There's at other places. Slings were a weapon. And like there were bows and arrows, there were also slingers. That was a serious weapon. But you have David and Goliath, and David decides to take the stone and he's going to bind it in a sling. What does that mean? What does it mean? You go to kill Goliath, what happens? You keep the stone. You keep the stone. All right, nothing happens except you look foolish. And also, here is the next bit, is it's going to come around and hit you. Because the sling, the weight of it, is coming back around to hit you. You get hurt, not Goliath. All right, David would get hurt. And here is this absurd sort of thought that someone would actually bind a stone in a sling. Well, as that is bad, and that is harmful, and that is a dumb thing to do, is to give honor to a fool. It's going to be like binding the stone in the sling. It's going to have an obvious conclusion. It's going to be self-defeating. This is going to come around and hurt, is what it's going to do. But we come back up to verse 1 and talking about this, that there are certain things that should never be given to a fool. They should never. And now I understand there are we will call it levels of foolery. There are levels. And you can have someone who has a very important job that does require an honor to it. Just going quickly over to Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18, we can see Gallio when in verse 12, when Gallio was proconsul of Achaia, Gallio would not listen to Paul's detractors. He would not listen to the Jews who are complaining about Paul and complaining about his teaching. Gallio wouldn't do it. Now, was Gallio a Christian? No. A Jew? No. What does that make him? That makes him something else. Probably he was a pagan. Now he could have been an atheist. I don't know. It doesn't say. But he's probably a pagan. He probably worshipped was that a foolish thing? That was a foolish, and yeah, this time of ignorance God overlooked. It was a thing of ignorance. Okay. Now, he, however, has a great. Was he to be honored? Yes. And is he showing himself to be what we would call a high-level fool? Well, no, he's not. While he may be doing some things that are foolish and ignorant, that isn't to say that he's some kind of high-level aristocratic fool. All right, who is just everything they do should be avoided, because there are people of that sort. Usually, but not always, that sort, they're in and out of jail, or just staying in jail, are usually of that sort. And to give honor to someone like that just would not be fitting at all. It would not be beneficial at all, and it would be a foolish thing to do that. Now, 26 and verse 2. Like a flitting sparrow or a flying swallow, so a curse without cause shall not alight. All right, this is something that is this condemnation that's undeserved. You have an innocent party here. You have the innocent who are being a victim. This is against an innocent person. It's going to be baseless. It's going to be empty, not just shallow. It's going to be empty, and there's going to be no cause for it. Now, if I accused you of doing something that obviously you didn't do, And it's kind of obvious to anybody else, you didn't do it. If I accused you of a murder that was committed last night, and we'll just say it was in British Columbia, on the other side of the continent, British Columbia. If I accused you of that, you're not going to be too worried about it. And it's certainly not going to land because you can prove I was nowhere close to British Columbia last night. All right, that's an absurd sort of accusation in this. But here's this condemnation based on what? Based on nothing. It's condemnation based on absolutely nothing. Flitting sparrow or a flying swallow is not going to do much of anything. Now we come to verse 3. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. So here we have this series, and it's a logical series, and it doesn't take much to understand. Whip for the horse, okay. Bridle for the donkey, okay. Rod for the fool's back. That's the fool. Just anticipate punishment. All right. But in my mind, I can't help but think that the horse is saying, "Couldn't I get the bridle?" The donkey, I mean, give him the whip. I don't need the whip. But the rod for the fool's back. Most fools in this lifetime, and we're talking about the all sorts, not just the higher ups, but all sorts of fools. Most fools do go unpunished in this lifetime. But there's an eternity. And there is a judge that can't be bought, can't be intimidated. And he knows, you can't lie to him either. He knows everything. He doesn't need witnesses. He is the witness. All right, he doesn't need the agreement of 12 jurists. There are no jurists. He's it. And a rod for the fool's back. If the fool doesn't get it now, well, just anticipate it anyway. If you think you have in fact escaped justice now, well, you haven't escaped justice at all. You've just fooled some men. You've just done whatever here and evaded it. But there is the rod for the fool's back. And here I like this particular one because you're following a logical pattern that's in this. Now these next two go together. Verses 4 and verse 5. And we're going to read them together because it's one of those things of understand. You need to understand which one to use when. All right, verse 4. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also become like him. Then answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So which is it? Not answer or to answer? Which is it? And it's a matter of you're going to have to judge that one. You're going to have to judge it. What did Jesus say concerning the swine and the dog? Don't cast your pearls before swine, or give what is holy to the dogs, lest they turn and rend you. There are some folks that they're violent. There's some folks that's not just a thing of no thank you. I've got my own way. Thank you, but I'm not going to listen to you. There's the type that they don't listen to anything that is good and may turn and rend you. And this is actually going into that same sort of idea, that there is a time when you need to answer a fool, and it's okay, lest they be wise in their own eyes. And there may be a situation or a particular person where they're going to do what they're going to do. You can't correct them, and They're gonna bring you down into the mud where they are. And they love it there, and they love it when you have to get in there. And lest you be like them, it may be best to just let that person go off in their foolishness. Let them go off. And I have to say, there are certain people in my life, not present company, and probably people you don't even know. People in my life of where I have tried. I tried. And they obviously don't want what I have to offer. They don't want the Word of God. They don't want truth. They don't want, as Proverbs, they don't want wisdom. They don't want these things. They're not going to listen. No matter what you say, they're against it. No matter what you say. And with some of them, not all of them, but with some of them, they spring into anger. And you learn, okay, I'm just going to, just let them go. Let them go. That's the best you can do. Just let them go. If this is your response to someone if this is your response to the truth, and someone trying to help you, then we can just cut ties here, because you just remain in your notions, remain in your foolishness, remain in whatever it is you think you got, because I can't do this. It's obviously non-productive. It's obviously a futile act, and so we just leave it alone. And arguing with the fool, well, here's what could happen when you're arguing with a fool. The fool remains, and then the world now gains one more fool. Okay, and it's you. That's exactly what verse 4 is saying, lest you also be like him. Now, I want to talk about a foolish notion, and it truly is a foolish notion, that for years and years, I'm sure you could find it today if you wanted to, for years and years, you have skeptics of the Bible who have tried to say that 26:4 and 26:5 show there is a contradiction in the Bible. Therefore, none of the Bible is true. Well, that's a stupid notion. It really is. And that's someone who's looking for anything. If that happens to be a part of your idea as to what constitutes a contradiction and thus disproving the Bible, you've missed everything, and I think purposefully missed everything. Something's being taught here. And can both be true at given situations? Yeah, depends on the situation, depends on the person. Both could be true. There's a time to do one and there's a time to do the other. It's that simple. And you never mind the fact that you are in a book called Proverbs, and yes, there are things written in such a way that it may not be immediately evident as to its meaning. Now, it's there. You got to go look for it. It is there, and it's the book of Proverbs. While one could just read right through the book and wonder what it is that they read, to look at it more deeply, and not just speeding through, to look at it deeply, you begin to find that there's a lot in here. There is a depth that keeps going and keeps going, and to bring out something as petty as this, that here shows a contradiction. Never mind that they're side by side. You think there might be a meaning in here that you just neglect to tell anybody. You think there may be something about it that it's trying to teach, and it's taught in this way. All right, really, only a fool would use this to try to disprove the Bible. And to say that the Bible is contradicting itself. it doesn't here. I would say it doesn't anywhere. But it certainly isn't doing it here. And we need to bring this to a close today. We have run out of time. And I want to thank everybody for being with us.